Way to go.
Good job, Kendall.
Nicely done.
And Seth is leaving the room.
Yeah, so I have a question for everybody in
No, he's not.
in this moment. Do we feel like my biggest thought after a rewatch was...
Guys, stop talking about Brogan. He's
yeah,
back.
your wife's on the phone. My biggest question was like, did Littlefinger fuck himself by giving Bran the cat's paw?
Oh, hey Kendall. She's
So I think Littlefinger's biggest mistake here was making the assumption that Arya wanted to be Lady of Winterfell. I think she always knew that she wasn't going to be, and she even says it, as good of a lady as Sansa was going to be, but Arya's path was never to become a queen, never to become the Lady of Winterfell. It was always to become that kind of warrior that she wanted to be. And so I think Littlefinger's biggest mistake was assuming that by pitting two sisters against each other, it was because of that aspect of being top dog.
For sure. So I'm going to ask this question, though, in a different way. Because it kind of came up last night when Katie asked the question about what do we know about Bran's visions. And all I'm thinking about, and like, they wouldn't have been able to get Littlefinger if Bran hadn't seen some specific things that happened. Because nobody was around when Lysa Arryn was killed. And nobody was around when...
he held the dagger to Ned's throat.
Yeah, I think people were, but nobody that's alive or in the room today. But like essentially, so if Bran can't see everything all the time, but he got this dagger that was obviously really important that Littlefinger was trying to use in some way, he probably went back and was like, where are all the instances that this dagger pops up? And now I can track you. I can find where Littlefinger really misstepped, and then we can snag him and say, dude, what the shit? And then Arya can just cut it through.
Yeah, we saw like the nuclear weapon that is Bran get unleashed this week. We saw what he's capable of. We
subtle,
saw
too.
what was interesting to me. I think I read this in one of the reviews online, maybe IGN's review of the episode. But they talked about what was interesting is like when did they figure all of this out? Like when did all of this plan start to go into motion between the Stark girls and Bran? Was it the first time that they met at the tree? When they met at the tree, did they cut away from that scene and Bran was like, "Oh, hey, by the way, I totally forgot to tell you that Littlefinger guy that's here
Motherfucking
is
Littlefinger."
Where did it go?
So broken.
Well, he's either... I feel as if, and it's not explicitly been stated yet, but because we were kind of left with the idea that Bran is the Three-Eyed Raven, but he's like becoming the Three-Eyed Raven. So he doesn't quite have that grasp down on how to see everything all the time. He just knows that if I'm looking for this specific thing, I can go and find it, which I think we kind of got a hint at when he went and saw the secret marriage ceremony between Lyanna and Rhaegar.
Yep.
And that was kind of, I think, where we're going. Like, we know that Bran, if he's looking for something, he will find it. But he has to know what he's looking for in the first place.
It's the Control F function.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a catalog.
Cat's paw.
Yeah.
So, I mean, overall, though, are we happy that Littlefinger's dead, or are you going to miss the
without a
conniving
doubt.
little
No,
guy?
You made the point though that he's not technically gone.
He's got a face. That's not the last time we see this actor.
And what a good just fucking slit by Arya. Just
Solid.
he's like saying Sansa, and right as he finishes, just
It was pretty dirty, yeah, and I really want the actor to come back, because like Arya as Littlefinger is so much better, but the actor was so damn good that it would be cool to see him continue to play
Kendall,
that.
do you have anything to add to all of this?
No.
summed it up.
You guys are doing a great job. Keep going.
Do you want to get off the phone, or are you going to hang out and listen?
No, I like listening.
Okay, cool.
Alive viewer.
Yeah, so,
I think it's time to talk about the scene at the end of the show.
yeah. So the very last thing you want to say about?
I just wanted to say, I'm sorry to close it out.
Yeah.
Arya and Sansa. I feel like for weeks I've been saying it. I wanted to see those girls join forces, come together, and not let Littlefinger. Don't you don't have to, but I didn't want to see that happen, and I am so incredibly excited and honored doesn't feel like the right word, but that the show did that, and it felt like the right call and the right move for the family, for the girls, for the characters, and it's just so cool to have seen that happen.
The power that they're giving the female characters on this show is awesome. Like it's so fucking cool that like No, you're not just going to fool these two women, and they're not just going to be another couple of pawns in your chess piece. Like, they're ahead of you. Like, they're ahead of you. Like, you think that you're able to pull all the strings all the time. And in this case, they were ahead of them for seemingly a lot longer than we were led to believe as the viewers, too.
Well, and for this, I mean, it looks like we're set in like a medieval kind of time period here, but if you look at the major players, it's all it's female dominated, right? What other kind of show do we have that's not, driven as like a romantic comedy, right? And I just think that's so freaking cool. I just love seeing it.
Yeah, I think for me, and you guys were kind of rightfully so a bit skeptical of the episode, but the character arcs for Jaime and then the Stark sisters really solidified this for me as like a really cool finale, because we got what we always understood, but the writers did a good job kind of, playing with the audience, in this regard, and we don't typically see that. We typically get a lot of this backstory, but...
Okay, now we can... Thank you for indulging.
You got it.
Motherfucking zombie dragon.
Talking about zombie dragons.
So Bran wards some ravens over to Eastwatch.
Yeah,
that's how we enter it, and then you see Tormund and Beric.
Can I talk about, before we even dive into this too far, notable no-show, Gendry this week. We didn't see Gendry.
Weird, yeah.
We didn't get a shot at Gendry at the wall. Gendry wasn't with Jon, so I'm just kind of curious where we think he's at.
It was shoulder day, so he was rowing.
No.
Say again, Kendall.
Do you think he's dead because he was at the wall?
I don't know if we know he was at the wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We assume, but maybe not.
Wouldn't he be at the wall?
Well, because Davos was with him, right? And Davos was south at King's Landing for all.
Yeah, he
of
was
this.
he may have just been a no-show this week. Maybe just nothing
for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
It was Grey Worm or Gendry. They picked Grey Worm this week.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Rock, paper, scissors. All right, who doesn't have a piece in this episode?
They were going to open up with just Gendry on a rowing machine with the song "Everybody's Working for the Weekend." It's on the cutting room floor. I hate myself. All right, so the last scene of season 7 of Game of Thrones, we see the wall come down. There's no way to get around it. I mean, except to go through it, and that's exactly what we saw. And it's almost. I was talking to John about this a little bit before the show tonight, but it's almost like with this show, there are so many fan theories, and there are so many theories about what could happen that somebody's guaranteed to be right, and then there's guaranteed to be a theory that is maybe more interesting than the truth. And to me, I felt like this is one of those scenarios. This is one of those scenarios where I thought it would be more interesting that the fact that the Night King touched Bran on the arm and thus broke the magic spell that was preventing the walkers from coming through the wall. I thought that was cool, and thus the walkers could get through. But it turns out just a giant fire-breathing dragon can just knock down the wall, and it's okay, well, that's it. So it's why couldn't the White Walkers previously have just mounted a bunch of fiery catapults, because they can apparently just go to the big old chain warehouse that they're going to get the tools to pull an ice dragon out. They obviously have the resources to be able to mount an attack, and it's was the only linchpin here a fire breathing dragon to take down the wall?
So my ladies, Katie and Carla, they've got a question to pose to the group here. So we've asked the question, can Bran see into the future? So in the way this episode sets it up, I believe Bran was talking and having that whole moment with Dany and Jon right before this scene, right? I believe I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just double checking. So then they launch right into this scene. So the question is posed: is this a vision of what's to come, or is it actually happening in real time? And I feel like time is totally warped in the seasons, because, right? We're moving so fast now, but it took so long, and they're moving so slow through the north, right? And to all of a sudden just be at the wall feels a little strange and disjointed. So could it be a vision? And so I'm just curious, or do we really think it's real time?
I think it happened. I think it happened in the moment. And I mean, I get it. We don't know the time scale here, but I mean, all we know is that between capturing the White, moving south, so they have gone from north of the wall all the way down to King's Landing to now they're somewhere back there. That's a significant amount of time. Even if we assume that the White Army is moving incredibly slow, which I think we are. I don't feel as if, and there's no way Gendry could have ran that far, like in the snow, in the cold. Like,
that's a good point.
They weren't super far away from the wall, or at least from Eastwatch, when that happened. Mm-hmm. So the time scale I feel as if for this is not super far off. It's just everything happens so fast in the show that we're so used to having these transition scenes that we don't have in this season. I think that's throwing a lot of people off.
Agreed. So I am in the same boat a little bit. I think it was happening real time, and my only reason for that is when Bran's talking to Sam, he says, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, he says something along the lines of like, I can see past events and I can see events happening now. He never mentions the future, and so whether or not that is him just downplaying it, I really think that was like my powers are the past and current, and so I think he's
the three-eyed raven.
I agree, but
like
again,
we're missing something.
But again, maybe he just doesn't have the power yet. And we were Joe Brogan and I were in a text with some other people and Eric C and some other people from DC. But my comment was Bran was so impatient when he was with Bloodraven that he didn't get to hone his powers. So he's learning as he's going. So maybe he just doesn't have the power of foresight yet.
I do also wonder if like maybe because they kind of talk about like, or the thought is that Jojen could have been chosen to become the three-eyed raven, but he used to have seizures, right? So maybe Bran is even a more powerful person, but to your point, he's not like trained in the art yet. I think it happens real time for an additional reason, and I've always kind of thought this way about the White Walkers. I think that the Night King is consistently moving slow for a reason. The reason is he wants to exhaust everybody that's north of the wall to build his army as big as can be before he comes south.
That's a great point.
And,
I like it.
And to John's point, I don't think they were that far north of the wall to begin with. Like they were, in theory, like based on this Reddit article, 4 days travel time north of the wall. Which would make sense in this whole deal. So, yeah. So we got the wall comes down. Does it feel like everybody's gonna meet at Winterfell? Do it.
We're just gonna split this.
Sure.
All right, do it. Yeah. Does it feel like the actual battle then is gonna be at Winterfell? I feel like that could be.
They were at the beginning of the season. You hear Sansa talking about like building up their grain storage and all this stuff. Like it kind of sounds like everyone's coming towards Winterfell as like the safe haven.
Yeah.
Which means it has to go. It's like that Walking Dead theory that as soon as they find a place, it gets overrun.
So I'm throwing out a theory. I don't think Tormund is dead. I do think he's alive, and I think he's going to be the one running. Don't be angry at me throwing shit just because jeez.
I just didn't want you to say Tormund
Civil
is dead.
discourse here, guys. I don't think he's dead. I do think we have at least Tormund, if not a few others, that are still alive. That we see maybe opening scene we're moving so damn quick. I would usually reserve it for maybe another episode or two in the next season. Running into Winterfell, the redcoats are coming. The redcoats are coming. Yeah. And I think the army of the dead does move slow, intentionally or not. That you see them shuffling their little asses over the wall. So I think they will take a while to get to that first battle point. Regardless, I do think that we'll see some of our, beloved characters making their way there first.
This is a really good transition into my
maybe
game
Gendry
for tonight. So I think it's probably time for us to transition into our game. So again, guys, before we do this, I just want to say thank you to all of our listeners who have tuned in for all 7 episodes of the Westeros Gazette, including a couple of rapid fire nice in there. As our final penultimate episode, everyone's like going for a cheersing, so let's just do it.
Yeah, to
cheers
all the listeners.
Cheers to the listeners. Thank you so much.
Listening.
We wouldn't do this without you. We probably still would, to be totally honest, but we're glad that we're doing it for somebody else too. So again, make sure to subscribe, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, share this show. It would mean a lot to us. Remember, if you subscribe to this show, you get another show for free. That's right, it's all free, so who cares? But you get the Hold On to Your Butts proper show. Man, is that just a garbage truck on fire. So make sure to turn into that one. It's a great show. Okay, so tonight's game is a logical next step to what Beth was saying. I want to get from each of you, what you think the first scene of season 8 is going to be. The opening scene. So the like all of that is done. And we open up, we fade in.
It'll be a cold open.
Can
so that
I-
won't happen.
What do we see?
Can I just say...
Maybe a cold open. Sure.
And
sure.
can I just say, and Joe and Beth can back this up, I called the opening scene of scene 7.
You did.
With Arya and Walder Frey.
You barely beat me.